There is a profoundly underappreciated truth about human health, especially after the age of 60. The single most protective and transformative daily practice you can adopt to lower high blood pressure and prevent heart attacks isn't a pharmaceutical or a complex supplement stack, it's walking. Yes, walking, a simple, rhythmic, low-impact, neurologically integrative movement that rewires your cardiovascular, metabolic, and neurological systems in ways science continues to reveal layer by layer. And what makes this even more powerful is that you don't need high intensity, you don't need equipment, you don't even need more than 30 minutes a day. What you do need is consistency, intention, and the understanding that this daily practice is not merely light exercise. It is neurovascular training that sustains the very systems that keep you alive. Let's take a look inside the body as you begin to walk. The moment you start putting one foot in front of the other at a steady, purposeful pace, your muscles contract, and these contractions act as natural pumps, propelling blood back to the heart. This boosts circulation and stimulates something called vascular shear stress, a healthy friction inside your arteries that actually prompts them to release nitric oxide. This compound, nitric oxide, is the same molecule elite athletes rely on for blood vessel dilation, enhanced oxygen flow, and reduced blood pressure. When you walk daily, your body naturally produces it, encouraging arterial flexibility and significantly reducing the risk of hypertension. But this isn't just a cardiovascular response, it's neurological. Embedded within your vascular system are baroreceptors, tiny sensors that communicate with your brainstem, particularly the nucleus tractus solitarius. These sensors constantly read pressure levels inside your arteries and relay that information to the brain. When you walk, they help reset and balance your autonomic nervous system, calming the sympathetic fight or flight response and activating the parasympathetic rest and recover system. This balance is crucial after 60 when sympathetic overdrive, constant low-grade stress can keep blood pressure elevated and recovery blunted. The brain, too, becomes a beneficiary of this daily ritual. Walking increases cerebral blood flow, especially to the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function, decision-making, and memory. With each walk, you're not only lowering your risk of stroke, but you're enhancing neuroplasticity, or the brain's ability to adapt, learn, and remain sharp. This means clearer thinking, better emotional regulation, and improved sleep, each of which feeds back into better heart health and blood pressure control. Beyond the neurovascular level, walking affects metabolic factors that are key contributors to heart attacks. After 60, insulin sensitivity tends to decline, leading to higher blood glucose levels and more circulating triglycerides, which damage arterial walls. A 30-minute brisk walk boosts glucose uptake in skeletal muscles, improves insulin signaling, and reduces circulating inflammatory markers like CRP and IL-6. These aren't abstract benefits. They're deeply measurable changes that reduce the actual root causes of heart disease. And let's not ignore the psychological dimension. When you walk with intention, dopamine and serotonin levels rise. These neuromodulators improve mood, motivation, and outlook. This positive internal shift becomes a catalyst for further healthy behaviors. You feel more in control, more energized, and more likely to continue moving. In behavioral neuroscience, we call this a keystone habit, a behavior that unlocks a chain reaction of positive lifestyle improvements. Walking becomes the center spoke of a lifestyle wheel that turns toward longevity. So if you're over 60 and asking what you can do to truly change your health, lower your blood pressure, and reduce your risk of a heart attack, don't underestimate the profound impact of this daily practice. Walking is not a filler activity or just light exercise. It is a full body, full brain recalibration. It is control over your heart rate, your blood pressure, your vascular tone, and your emotional state, all in one coordinated, rhythmic, sustainable motion. You don't need to chase youth, you need to reclaim your biology, and walking done daily is the reset button you've been looking for. Every day we make countless unconscious choices, many of which shape our long-term health without us realizing it. For individuals over 60, one of the most powerful choices you can make each day is to walk not just casually, but with steady intention for about 30 minutes. It's deceptively simple. Yet behind this movement lies a cascade of neurophysiological mechanisms that defend the heart, regulate blood pressure, and recalibrate your entire autonomic nervous system. What most people don't realize is that our vascular system isn't just a plumbing network, it's a communication system. With every step, you're creating micro signals, activating sensors within your arteries known as baroreceptors. These baroreceptors aren't passive. They talk directly to your brainstem and signal whether your blood pressure is too high or too low. When you walk regularly, you essentially fine-tune this communication loop, making your body better at self-regulating blood pressure. That is the essence of biological intelligence, and walking unlocks it. Once you begin walking, your muscles contract rhythmically, and with that contraction, they begin to assist your heart in pumping blood back toward it more efficiently. This is called the muscle pump effect, and it has direct effects on stroke volume, the amount of blood your heart pumps with each beat. As your circulation improves, so does something called endothelial function. The endothelium is the thin lining of your blood vessels that governs vascular tone, clotting, and inflammation. After age 60, this system becomes less responsive unless you engage in consistent motion. Walking restores that responsiveness by increasing shear stress, a healthy form of internal friction that stimulates the release of nitric oxide, a natural vasodilator that relaxes and opens up blood vessels. Over time, this reduces overall vascular resistance, lowers blood pressure, and dramatically reduces the workload on the heart. The effect is profound and measurable. And what's truly remarkable is that the heart isn't the only organ benefiting from this cascade of events. The brain, too, receives increased blood flow, particularly to areas that are most vulnerable to age decline. This includes the hippocampus, vital for memory, and the prefrontal cortex, essential for focus, planning, and emotional regulation. Regular walking has been shown to stimulate neurogenesis, the formation of new neurons, and enhance the strength of synaptic connections. In simpler terms, walking makes your brain younger. At the same time, it lowers cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, which not only affects mood, but is also a key driver of elevated blood pressure. By engaging in daily walking, you are essentially applying a neurological brake on your stress system. This is how motion becomes medicine. Yet the benefits don't stop there. One of the more hidden but powerful effects of walking daily after 60 is how it transforms your metabolism. As we age, insulin sensitivity declines, fat storage increases, and inflammation rises, a dangerous triad that directly contributes to atherosclerosis, the underlying cause of most heart attacks. Walking combats this on all three fronts. It enhances glucose uptake in muscle tissue, which reduces blood sugar levels. It increases mitochondrial efficiency, allowing your cells to produce energy with less waste. And it downregulates pro-cellulatory cytokines that can damage blood vessels. These biochemical shifts happen quietly, invisibly, but they matter. Over time, they shift your entire risk profile in the direction of vitality and resilience. The mental aspect is equally vital. When you commit to walking daily, you create a structure, a routine that acts as an anchor in your day. That structure builds behavioral momentum. The brain loves patterns, and once you establish a consistent time and space for movement, your dopamine system responds. Dopamine is not just a pleasure molecule, it's a molecule of motivation and pursuit. This is why walking can actually change your mood and your sense of agency. People often think motivation must come first, but the truth is, movement precedes motivation. By walking, you signal to your brain that you are a person who takes action. And this identity shift becomes self-reinforcing. Walking becomes your foundation, a keystone habit that radiates outward, influencing everything from diet and sleep to optimism and emotional regulation. It's not just about what walking does to your heart, your blood vessels, or your metabolism. It's what it does to your self-image. That is where true, lasting transformation begins. The human body, especially after the age of 60, becomes exquisitely sensitive to how we move or don't move. And while the cultural narrative often emphasizes rest in older age, neuroscience and cardiology research tell a very different story. In fact, one of the most effective interventions to lower high blood pressure and protect your heart is something profoundly simple and universally accessible: walking. When done daily and with purpose, this seemingly basic activity sets off a chain of biological events that regulate the autonomic nervous system, reduce inflammation, boost circulation, and strengthen the heart's resilience. Most notably, walking serves as a non-pharmaceutical way to rebalance the body's internal rhythm, a rhythm that dictates whether your blood vessels dilate or constrict, whether your blood pressure rises or stabilizes. The baroreceptors, tiny sensors located in your arteries, respond to the mechanical stretch caused by movement. As you walk, they detect these changes and communicate directly with the brainstem, helping to calibrate blood pressure in real time. It's like tuning an instrument. With each walk, you refine that internal tuning, giving your heart a break from unnecessary strain. What's fascinating is how rapidly the body begins to respond to consistent movement. After only a few sessions of moderate walking, there is measurable improvement in endothelial function, the responsiveness of the blood vessels. These improvements come largely from increased production of nitric oxide, a gas naturally produced by your endothelial cells that tells your blood vessels to relax. Nitric oxide doesn't just improve circulation, it also prevents platelets from sticking together and forming clots, a major cause of heart attacks. Over time, regular walking reduces arterial stiffness and improves the elasticity of your vessels. This is crucial because stiff arteries force your heart to work harder to pump blood. But when arteries are flexible and responsive, blood pressure naturally decreases and cardiovascular risk diminishes. This effect is magnified in those over 60, where arterial aging tends to accelerate unless counteracted by consistent low-impact movement. However, cardiovascular health is only part of the story. The role walking plays in modulating brain function is equally compelling. With every step, your brain's blood supply improves, especially in areas like the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. These are the zones responsible for memory, decision-making, and regulating emotions. In older adults, these brain regions often show signs of reduced volume and blood flow, but walking can slow and even reverse those declines. The rhythmic, repetitive nature of walking has a calming effect on the nervous system, activating the parasympathetic branch, the side that lowers heart rate, promotes digestion, and helps us rest and repair. In contrast, a sedentary lifestyle strengthens the sympathetic or stress-driven side, which keeps the body in a low-level state of tension, constricting blood vessels and keeping blood pressure chronically elevated. Walking undoes this imbalance. It acts as a biological reset, shifting the nervous system out of stress mode and back into equilibrium. The metabolic benefits of walking cannot be overstated either. As we age, our sensitivity to insulin declines, making it easier to gain weight, especially around the abdomen, and harder to control blood sugar levels. This isn't just a cosmetic issue, it's directly linked to cardiovascular risk. High insulin levels contribute to arterial inflammation, endothelial dysfunction, and plaque formation. But with consistent walking, muscles become more efficient at absorbing glucose, which lowers blood sugar and reduces the need for excess insulin. Walking also increases the expression of enzymes that break down fat, meaning it helps mobilize fat stores, especially the visceral fat that surrounds organs, and drives up cardiovascular risk. These improvements don't require extreme effort. They come from the sustained daily repetition of walking for about 30 minutes a day, ideally in natural light and at a moderate pace that slightly elevates your heart rate. What makes this practice so powerful isn't just what it does to the numbers on your blood pressure cuff or cholesterol panel, it's how it reshapes your internal narrative. Movement becomes an act of agency. Each walk reinforces a positive feedback loop in the brain, boosting dopamine levels and enhancing feelings of motivation and self-efficacy. These aren't abstract feelings, they're driven by real changes in brain chemistry that make it easier to sustain other healthy behaviors. You start eating better, sleeping more deeply, and engaging more socially. The act of walking becomes a signal to the body and the mind that you are still adaptable, still capable, still in motion. In a world that often tells us aging means slowing down, daily walking sends the opposite message, that aging is a process of tuning in, not giving up. And with each step, you're not just walking, you're taking control of your health one stride at a time. There comes a point in life, especially after 60, when the focus on health shifts from performance to preservation, from ambition to protection. And yet, protection does not mean passivity. The most profound way to protect your heart and lower high blood pressure as you age is by taking action in its simplest form, walking. But not just walking as a physical act, walking as a biological signal, a neural reset, and a cardiovascular tune-up. This form of movement doesn't just keep your legs active, it keeps your arteries young and your heart pressure controlled. At the core of this process lies your vascular endothelium, the inner lining of your arteries. With age, this lining becomes less responsive, leading to stiff blood vessels and increased pressure on the heart. But when you walk briskly each day, you create internal blood flow turbulence, known in medicine as shear stress. That stimulates the release of nitric oxide. This molecule is the body's natural vasodilator, meaning it relaxes blood vessels, widens them, and allows blood to flow more easily. This leads to a natural and sustained reduction in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. But the benefits of walking extend far beyond vascular flexibility. Your heart doesn't just beat in isolation. It responds to a dynamic communication system regulated by your brain. The autonomic nervous system, made up of the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches, plays a key role in this balance. In a stressed state, which becomes more common with age, your sympathetic nervous system dominates. This leads to the release of adrenaline and cortisol, both of which constrict blood vessels and raise heart rate. Walking, particularly when done in a quiet or green environment, activates the parasympathetic system. This triggers a calming effect across your entire nervous system, reducing the load on the heart and helping to lower blood pressure naturally. It's not just about burning calories, it's about recalibrating your biological stress response. The brain reads this rhythmic motion as a signal of safety, stability, and control. What's happening cognitively and emotionally during a daily walk is just as transformative. With every step, the brain is flooded with oxygen and glucose, its two most vital sources of energy. Areas such as the prefrontal cortex, responsible for focus and decision-making, and the hippocampus, responsible for memory, show improved connectivity and growth in response to consistent walking. These changes have been measured through brain imaging, confirming that walking stimulates neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire and regenerate. For individuals over 60, this isn't just a cognitive advantage, it's protection against dementia, depression, and decline in executive function. More importantly, walking creates psychological momentum. It shifts the brain's reward system into motion, increasing the release of dopamine and serotonin. These neurotransmitters aren't just for mood, they're essential for motivation, behavior regulation, and creating lasting habits. The more you walk, the more your brain reinforces that action as a positive, repeatable behavior. At a metabolic level, the daily habit of walking acts as an anti-hemorrhagary ritual. One of the silent contributors to heart attacks and high blood pressure is chronic inflammation, often caused by high blood sugar, poor sleep, and excess body fat. Walking helps reverse this. It increases insulin sensitivity, helping your body clear glucose more efficiently, and preventing the spikes that lead to vascular damage. At the same time, walking activates enzymes that help break down fats in the bloodstream, reducing triglycerides and LDL cholesterol. And because walking improves sleep quality, it allows for more complete hormonal recovery during the night. Hormones like cortisol, growth hormone, and melatonin, all vital for cardiovascular health, achieve more balanced rhythms in individuals who walk regularly, particularly earlier in the day. This entire cycle creates a loop of benefit. Movement improves sleep, sleep improves metabolism, metabolism protects the heart. Ultimately, what walking offers is not just biological efficiency, it offers clarity, consistency, and control. It is the daily investment that pays exponential returns. You begin to move not because you're afraid of disease, but because you understand your body's language. You begin to feel when your blood pressure is steady, when your breath is deeper, when your thoughts are clearer. That is awareness. And it is awareness paired with movement that keeps the heart strong, the blood pressure low, and the mind sharp well into your later decades. The beauty of walking is not just in how easy it is, but in how powerful it becomes over time. It doesn't just add years to your life, it adds presence to your years. There's a quiet power in something as simple as walking, especially as we grow older. After the age of 60, our physiology begins to shift. Blood vessels become less elastic, blood pressure starts to creep upward, and cardiovascular risk increases. Yet what remains firmly within our control is how we choose to engage our body each day. Walking, specifically brisk walking for just 30 minutes, initiates a full body response that recalibrates the cardiovascular system. It strengthens the heart by improving stroke volume, the amount of blood pumped with each beat, and reduces the workload on arteries by increasing their elasticity. Every time your foot strikes the ground, a chain of micro adjustments begins across your circulatory system. The motion drives blood flow, and that flow applies a mild beneficial pressure to your arterial walls, shear stress that tells your endothelial cells to release nitric oxide. That single molecule, nitric oxide, is responsible for expanding blood vessels, lowering resistance, and reducing the pressure your heart must push against. Over time, this response translates into significantly lower blood pressure, making walking one of the most powerful non-pharmaceutical tools for cardiovascular protection. But walking is more than just a heart-friendly practice. It is a deeply neurological event. The moment you begin walking, your body initiates a communication sequence between your joints, muscles, spine, and brain. The brain interprets this movement as a sign of safety and control. This initiates a shift in the balance of your autonomic nervous system, from the sympathetic fight or flight mode to the parasympathetic rest and recover mode. For people over 60, this shift is incredibly valuable because sympathetic dominance becomes more common with age. Chronic stress, poor sleep, and isolation can keep the body in a subtle but constant state of high alert, raising blood pressure and disturbing heart rhythm. Daily walking acts as a regulator. It slows the heart rate, improves heart rate variability, a marker of resilience, and reduces the circulating levels of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. When you walk, you are not escaping stress. You are processing it through movement. You are giving your nervous system the conditions it needs to reset and find equilibrium. The cognitive effects of walking are equally essential. As we age, the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus areas responsible for attention, memory, and decision-making often suffer from decreased blood flow and neural connectivity. Walking reverses that trend. With each stride, you increase oxygen and glucose delivery to the brain, neural networks become more responsive, and your ability to focus, recall information, and regulate emotions strengthens. In fact, walking has been shown to promote the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a protein that supports the growth of new neurons and synaptic connections. This is not only protective against cognitive decline, it also elevates mood and improves sleep. For individuals struggling with feelings of fatigue, fogginess, or low motivation, walking restores the body's neurochemical balance by increasing dopamine and serotonin, the neurotransmitters responsible for drive and emotional stability. Movement becomes both therapy and stimulus, helping the brain thrive well into later decades. On a metabolic level, walking alters how the body manages energy. After 60, insulin sensitivity naturally declines, and fat begins to accumulate more easily, especially around the abdomen. This visceral fat is particularly dangerous because it produces inflammatory chemicals that damage blood vessels and increase the risk of heart disease. When you walk, your muscles actively pull glucose from the bloodstream, reducing the demand on insulin and lowering your overall blood sugar. This not only supports energy stability throughout the day, but also helps prevent the slow damage that leads to arterial plaque. Moreover, walking activates genes responsible for fat oxidation and mitochondrial health. Your body becomes more efficient at burning fat for fuel and less prone to inflammation. Over time, this shifts your metabolic profile away from risk and toward resilience. Perhaps the most underestimated effect of walking is the identity shift it creates. When you commit to a daily walk, even for a short period, you begin to view yourself differently. You're no longer someone who is slowing down. You're someone who is actively participating in your health. This shift changes your mindset, and that mindset influences every other behavior. People who walk daily tend to eat better, sleep better, and maintain better social connections. They experience fewer hospital visits, take fewer medications, and report higher life satisfaction. Walking becomes a keystone habit, a single behavior that cascades into widespread benefits. It requires no special skills, no gym, no equipment, just intention, consistency, and a willingness to step forward. Because at its core, walking is not just movement. It is a message to your body that you are still growing, still adapting, and still taking responsibility for the years ahead. Not just about avoiding disease, it's about creating vitality, one step at a time.